Hey everybody, it's Coach Bronco from Apex. This week's video, I'd like to discuss a post that I made last week. I did a very short 1-minute video like I post all the time. Let's try to be helpful, tutorial. For those of you that don't know, who only follow me on YouTube, places like Instagram, Twitter, and even now on YouTube with YouTube Shorts, a lot of people consume their content in these 1-minute clips. So I've been doing a lot more instructional video in 1-minute clips. And one of the videos that I did, it was about how to bend the pole more. And as someone had mentioned, it's more complicated than what I just put in that clip. Because in a 1-minute video, there's only so much information that you can put out there. And so I want to try to explain how to bend the pole a little bit more nuanced. But first, let me tell you what I said in the video. In the original video on how to bend the pole, I talked about how important it is to learn how to move the pole. That if you could learn how to move the pole more, the pole will bend more. That just pushing against the pole, pressing, that alone is not going to bend the pole. We have to be able to generate pole speed. And how do we do that? And I showed one of our athletes doing a rollover drill, and I also took an athlete through a takeoff, swing, and then full jump progression to show as the athlete added more pole speed, the pole bent more. And if you're an athlete out there who's a beginner novice, because I clearly don't do my videos for like Mondo Duplantis. I'm sure he knows what he's doing and has his own way of doing things. But if you're a beginner novice kid looking to try to bend the pole, this is how I think you can bend the pole. Learn how to move the pole. And of course, there were lots of comments about this. And I have to read you these comments, guys. These are too good. So, I get a comment from Jeff Coover, and he says, the pole doesn't bend because it's moving fast. In fact, more pole speed means less pole bend. The faster the cord of the pole rotates to vertical, the less the pole will flex, keeping grip height constant. Okay, especially if I'm a beginner novice kid, I'm confused now. What should I be doing? Should I move the pole slower? I don't understand, okay? He also brings up the idea of the cord of the pole, and for those people that don't know, the cord of the pole, once the pole is bent, if you were to draw a dotted line from the top hand of the vaulter down to the tip of the pole, that's the cord of the pole. However, essentially, once the pole gets to vertical, if you're on a proper pole where you could do a full jump, the pole will be straight. The cord of the pole matches the actual pole, but whatever. Let's not get too technical yet. The next person, Oakton PV, comments, Jeff, I've learned the term jump the pole to vertical. Jump so hard the pole barely bends. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm a big advocate of jumping up at takeoff. It helps move the pole faster, which obviously on my video I talk about. I think that will get the pole to bend. Jeff then goes, would agree. I use this phrase constantly. Interesting, because you're then for moving the pole faster, but I did a video about bending the pole, and you're saying moving the pole faster won't bend the pole. I'm confused. So I comment at this point, and I say, so moving the pole slower will bend the pole and get it to vertical? Jeff then comments, no, bending the pole does not mean the cord is moving toward vertical. What? Again, this is very confusing. I'm just saying, my video is for beginner novice type athletes trying to learn how to effectively bend the pole, not force bend it. I could only imagine how confusing this comment thread is. I then comment again and say, okay, but the actual pole, like, should I try and move it slower? I don't understand. So how would you advise people to bend the pole? If you don't have a pen and paper, you might want to get one and write this down, or take a note in your phone if that's what you do. So Jeff goes, are you ready? If you want to bend the pole, this is how you do it. Add add more energy to the system than the selected pole grip combo can handle without flexing. What? What is a beginner novice kid to do with that information? I can't tell you how often I hear pole vault people throw around the term energy. You gotta put energy into the pole. What does a beginner novice kid do with that information? How would you like them to put energy into the pole? So I comment and I say, Jeff, yeah, I agree. Because that is true. If you put more energy into the pole than it can handle, it will start to bend. So yeah, I agree. But practically, what is an athlete to actually do? Like, what do they do with their arms? Should they jump up? What muscle groups should be engaged during the different phases of the vault to achieve this? Like, we all know people that can only bend poles slightly above 5 to 10 pounds above their body weight or even below, while there are other athletes that get on poles 20 pounds above their weight. So I'm trying to bring up, like, okay, some people can only force bend a pole around their body weight, whereas other people are getting on poles 20 pounds above their weight. How is this accomplished? How can I more effectively bend the pole? Well, again, you might want to write this down, guys. Jeff says, run faster, hold higher. Wow. So I reply, yeah, I think everyone knows that, but thanks. I read through these comments and I was thinking about this kind of stuff, and it made me think of this video, which I want you guys to watch. I'm going to clip it in right now, of this college professor talking about quantum mechanics, because I think it encapsulates the pole vault world 100%.
So this is a very exciting day for me, because today we're going to start quantum mechanics, and that's all we'll do till the end of the term. Now, I got bad news and good news. The bad news is that it's a subject that's kind of hard to follow intuitively, and the good news is that nobody can follow it intuitively. Richard Feynman, one of the big figures in physics, used to say no one understands quantum mechanics. So in some sense the pressure is off for you guys, because I don't get it and you don't get it and Feynman doesn't get it. The point is, here's my goal. Right now, I am the only one who doesn't understand quantum mechanics. In about 7 days, all of you will be unable to understand quantum mechanics. Then you can go back and spread your ignorance everywhere else.
Sometimes I feel like posting these videos, I don't know about pole vault, but now at least neither do you, and we can all spread our ignorance to others now that we don't know. That's the pole vault world. Like, I think people know just a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and the other issue that I always have is the lack of knowledge with certain demographics. So many coaches and athletes are only familiar with like higher end stuff, you know? Let's say even like high school girls jumping 12 plus, high school boys jumping 15 plus. They're only comfortable with Division I type talent. And they don't realize there's a lot of regular kids out there that are trying to pole vault. They're trying to clear 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet. They're trying to make their varsity team, score some points. They want to do well at leagues. And I put my content out there for that demographic, those beginner novice people that need help. Now, I also get DMs and emails from people that are jumping a little bit higher, maybe 13, 14, 15 feet, that they also have figured out that they're kind of stuck and they need help in a more nuanced way. Stuff like just saying you got to put more energy into the pole, it's just not good enough. Like, it has to be more tangible than that. And I understand, too, the value of, like, let's say even external cues, like get your toes to the bungee or hit the crap out of the pole or whatever. But that's not intrinsic, like internal cues. You need to start to know what your body's doing and how you achieve all these different, let's say, positions that everybody wants you to hit. And when we talk about bending the pole, just to get a little bit more nuanced, because someone comments, and in a minute video, there's only so much that you can put in there. And to give credit to even Jeff, sure, if you're gripping low and you move the pole really fast, it won't bend. So you have to then keep raising your grip, but the only way you raise your grip is by learning how to move the pole better and have enough pole speed. And then when you have a high enough grip on an appropriate pole, it will start to bend. Now we could do the reverse. I know there are coaches out there that use really extremely small poles and get athletes to bend the pole even on the first day, which again, you're not really learning how to move a pole to vertical at that point. You're learning how to overbend a pole, and that creates a lot of issues that I don't even want to get into on this video. But to explain what I think and what we do here, by learning how to move a straight pole to vertical, pole that's not going to bend, then as you start to raise the grip and put the athlete on an appropriate pole, the pole will slowly start to bend. And let's talk about this dynamic. I know some of my athletes have said that there's some Instagram page that's been posting videos of like athletes jumping and then they show how many degrees the pole bent. I don't know. If you have like a 5'3" girl gripping 9'9" to 10 feet on a 10'8", 110, how much should that pole bend? Should that pole bend as much as like Mondo Duplantis's pole, where he's gripping 16 plus? I don't think so. So this is all proportional. As athletes start to grip higher, which means they're moving the pole better, they can move more pole into the pit, they have better technique, they also are faster and stronger, the pole will start to bend. And I think that once you leave the ground, you finish takeoff, your bottom hand is above your head and you start swinging and you can add or maintain pole speed through the swing, that's what's going to get the pole to bend. So yes, going back to Jeff's point, sure, if you move the pole too fast, it's not going to bend, but that just means you have way too low of a grip. So you have to keep raising your grip if that's what's happening, and eventually, to a certain degree, yes, the pole speed is slowing down so that it's getting too vertical or just past vertical, and if you can keep moving the pole through the swing, it will bend. But you certainly don't want to slow down the pole speed to make it bend. That's not, I think that's the wrong way of thinking of it. You have to get beginner novice athletes to figure out how to move the pole to vertical, and in that process, as the grip goes up, the pole will bend. Honestly, I don't know how else to explain it, and I'm trying to explain it in a way that those beginner novice athletes can understand, right? So when we do stuff like our rollover drill, which you can look up on the YouTube channel, we have people go like 2 shoes behind the pole, they angle the pole to their forehead, grip slightly above their head, and they just have their chest go forward so their arms get nice and long, hands above the head, and then they use their upper back and arms to pull themselves up and forward. The pole moves, and in the video that I posted, the athlete even had the pole bend a little bit. Now imagine a swing to that. It's going to bend more, right? And then we slowly start to grip up and go on bigger poles. And the athlete that was even in that video, it's interesting. I think she weighs like 110, 115 tops. And she's gripped 11, 9, 12 on a 1335. So she's on poles above her weight. But she learned that by learning how to move the pole. Not by locking out her left arm, not by pressing up against the pole. I mean, even again, like, I remember feeling so stupid when I was a young coach I had one of my athletes jumping, and I was like, dude, you have to keep like pushing, pressing your hands up, at takeoff. And he's like, how am I going to push up once I'm off the ground? And I remember saying to the athletes, like, well, that's just what everybody does. And I remember even thinking back then at a certain point, like, wow, like, that's not a good enough answer. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, it doesn't really make any sense. Once you're off the ground, you cannot keep pushing up. What you can do is have a tight grip, and I think that's a vital part of also starting to bend the poles. Like, you have to have a tight grip of both hands so that you can effectively swing your legs. You can effectively start to engage your upper back. And this is why you even see that the higher someone grips, the more straight their bottom arm looks. But if they're pushing, the only thing they can do is push their hands forward, which would cause them to lean back, which would slow down the pole speed, which would limit pole bend, which would limit how stiff of a pole you can get on. So the thing is, once you get to an appropriate grip and you're starting to bend the pole, the only way you're going to bend the pole more is by swinging more effectively. And that means finishing takeoff, getting your bottom hand above your head, swinging your legs, and engaging your upper back to move the pole, which also gets your center of mass to rise. Because I know that was something else that I think Jeff and maybe somebody else commented about, like, wanting to keep your center of mass low in the beginning of the swing. And yes, that might bend the pole more. That might even move the pole to vertical, but then you are not going to get as much push off. Because pole vaulting is a blend of pole speed and getting your center of mass to rise. You need to generate a push off. You have to jump above your grip. And in my opinion, if you finish takeoff, if you jump up and now your bottom hand gets above your head, your center of mass has already stayed down as long as it needs to. You've got to swing the legs and start engaging the upper back to get your hips to go up and forward. That will move the pole and get your body to rise, which will also bend the pole more. I mean, this is the thing that shocks me is, like, if you consume any of our content, you'll see that we don't really talk a lot about like a strong bottom arm, which is a funny term to me because, like, your arm is strong or it's not strong. What you do with it at takeoff doesn't make it strong, but a straight bottom arm. But despite that, I have, like the athlete in the video, she's on a pole that's 20 pounds above her weight. And this is gripping down too, which I know there's a whole world of people out there that you got to grip the top if the pole's going to bend effectively. But she's bending a 1335. There's a reason we're going to a 1335. She blew through the 1330. She weighs 110, 115, so she's on poles at least 20 pounds above her weight without a strong bottom arm. And even, my high school boy that jumped 15.6, I've seen so many comments about his bottom arm. And again, he weighs 150. He's jumped on a 170. And on the 15s, he's cleared 15.6 on the 1565 and also still jumped on the 170. And honestly, he'll probably get on a bigger pole. So he's on poles 20 pounds above his body weight. If a strong bottom arm was what got the pole to bend, then my athletes wouldn't be getting on poles 20 pounds above their weight. I don't think enough people really understand the relationship between moving the pole and bending the pole and then also jumping above your grip. These are crucial things. So, like that professor said, I guess I don't understand pole vault, and maybe after watching this video, you don't understand it either, and we're all going to keep spreading our ignorance on this event, I guess. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you did actually learn something. Have a good one, everybody.